Okay, it is 3:03, so as promised, we are going to go ahead and get started. I am going to, oops, I'm going to share my screen 1 second here. Okay. Yeah, I be focused here. Oh, yeah. What can I talk about? Okay, so welcome everyone to the first Rev Up National Call of 2024. I am so excited to see so many people here. Before we get started, we're just going to go over a couple of accessibility considerations. So today we are recording this call. So if you don't want your video in the call, you can turn your video off. If you are going to be sharing an update, it is helpful if you turn your video on so we can pin you to share your update. But if you're not comfortable, you can keep your video off. We have part today being provided, and you can view that by clicking the CC button on the bottom toolbar, or if you like to view it in a separate window, our events support person, April, will put the link to the stream text in the chat. We also have ASL interpreters who will be spotlighted throughout the call. If you have any access issues during the call, you can send a direct message to Events AAPD. That is April, our wonderful events coordinator, and she can help make sure that you are set up. We ask that people only use the chat if necessary. So if the chat is your way to communicate, you can use it, but try to avoid having too much dialogue because it can create other access issues, especially for screen reader users. So if you put something in the chat, April will be the chat voice, and she'll raise her hand and read the chat out loud. Otherwise, throughout the call, you can use the raise hand feature to ask a question or share an update, and we will spotlight you and you can unmute yourself. Do we have any questions or concerns about access? Okay. So, oops, let me go to my agenda. So we have a lot of things to cover in our call. The first is welcome and accessibility, which we did. Hooray. But I also did want to we don't have time for full introductions, but I did just want to do a quick call out of some states I see here, just so you can get a sense of who all is on the call. I see people from Wisconsin, Massachusetts, Illinois, New York, Michigan, Minnesota, Georgia, Alabama, South Carolina, Virginia, North Carolina, Maine, Florida, Iowa, Missouri. I think that's the ones I see. Did I miss anyone's state? Unmute or put it in the chat if I missed your state. So we have some good representation. So thank you all for joining. This is exciting. So today I see we will be covering some updates about Rev Up, including the operating stipends we'll be giving to our coalitions, as well as talking about the Rev Up small grants. Then we're going to hear some updates from our state coalitions, which is the best part of the call. And then I will share some national advocacy updates, and then we'll highlight some upcoming Rev Up virtual events. Okay, so Rev Up funding updates. These are always fun ones. So for the first time in Rev Up history, we will be giving operating stipends to all of our official Rev Up coalitions. Those will be funds for use in 2024, and they will be between $2,000 to $4,000. The amount of funding is not based on like what kind of work your coalition is doing. It's more based on like resources and need, because all of our coalitions operate a little bit differently. So some coalitions meet every week, some meet 4 times a year, some are all volunteer, some have some paid advocacy staff. So we take all of that into consideration. The goal of the stipends is to make sure that all Rev Up meetings and events are fully accessible. So that means like providing CART and ASL at your meetings, and then also to pay organizers and cover expenses incurred in voter registration and outreach when we can, which will support more disabled leaders in engaging in outreach work. So I'm pretty excited about this, and we will be sending out more information to all of our coalition leaders about this either tomorrow or early next week. We just finished working on some plain language edits for our community guidelines, so we are almost all set. Do we have any questions about the stipends?
Yeah, they covered it 3.15 billion last year, so $200,000.
Okay. I will say too, this is not your only chance to ask questions. You can always reach out to me. Oh, Bernard, I see your hand up.
Oh, hi, Alexia. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Hey, just a quick question about the stipend. So, how coalitions go about receiving this funding? Is this something that's going to go automatically, or do they have to apply for a certain amount between that 2 and 4K?
Yeah, good question. So I will be sending out a survey to the coalition leads, and it will ask some questions like, how often do you meet? Do you have paid organizations that help fund or run your coalition, or are you all volunteer based? And each of those questions I'm asking has a score that I'll then tally up at the end, and then that will correspond to how much money the coalition receives for the year. And we'll have the coalitions work with a fiduciary partner, someone who they usually work with for the grants to actually receive the distributed funds. But we're hoping that they'll be distributed by like mid-February. Okay, does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks, Bernard. Okay, I see April. Do you have a chat update?
Carol from the chat asked, what are the criterion to be an official coalition?
Great question, Carol. Okay, so to be an official coalition, the first step is to meet with the Rev Up team. So you can send an email to me, and we will make sure that you have our community agreements, which is making sure that you're nonpartisan, inclusive, centering disability leadership. And then we'll help you do some outreach to make sure you're including lots of different groups around your state. And then that is pretty much it. It's a grassroots movement, so there's not too many requirements. But we can talk more about that for sure, Carol. Okay. Kathy?
I had a question about when you said fiduciary partner. Does that mean one of the organizations that's in the coalition that may be able to accept a grant? Because I was just thinking about in Alabama, if we create a Rev Up coalition, that organization won't necessarily have a bank account. But
yes,
like
correct.
For example, the league, I think we could serve as basically to hold it for the coalition, but I didn't know if that's what you meant by a fiduciary partner. And I'm not committing for my board, but I was just wondering, is that what you meant?
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, that was a very like specialized term that I used. So yes, our Rev Up coalitions are not 501c3s themselves. So most work with a organizational partner like a League of Women Voters or a self-advocacy organization or a protection advocacy organization that's part of the coalition that has that non-profit status.
Okay, that
Um,
that helps me understand.
funds.
Thank you.
Yep.
No, for him,
All right, great questions. Any other questions before we move on? Okay. All right, so the other funding piece to talk about is that we have opened our applications for our 2024 small grants. The applications are due January 29th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. The focus here is on state and local work, and the grant amounts are between $2,500 to $10,000. These are the same kind of grants you've seen in the past 2 years or so. So project specific proposals that we can give funding for. Our priorities this year are voter outreach, hosting nonpartisan candidate forums, providing accessible rides to the polls, creating nonpartisan videos about voting with a disability, and policy advocacy around voting legislation. That does not mean those are the only topics you can submit proposals on. Those are just some of the things that we're hoping to see in states. But you can submit any idea that you have that you see as a need in your area and that you think will help build the power of the disability vote. In April, we'll put a link in the chat to the grant application. Do we have any questions on the grants? Go ahead, Bunraj.
Hey, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be asking so many questions. It's just that we had our meeting today for Rev Up, and a big part of our discussion was on community events and members of the group sharing different things they've done to increase outreach to different diverse populations and giving strategies and skills. So with this small grants opportunity here, could those be used for those types of events? Could we encourage our members to go up there and apply for these small grants?
Yes, absolutely. Those kinds of outreach, specifically targeting different populations, I think that will qualify that under voter outreach. And that's a great use of funds. And that also brings up another point, Bernard, that I think is important to clarify. So if you have a Rev Up Georgia in your state, but within that Rev Up Georgia, you have 5 different members who each do their own events, you can apply for one large grant as Rev Up Georgia, or people could apply as individual organizers or organizations for grants. We don't just give one grant per state. States are big. There's a lot of diversity in need. There's a lot of diversity in outreach and ideas. So we can absolutely have more than one proposal per state.
Okay, so just to kind of make sure I'm understanding this correctly, Alexia. So let's say if Rev Up Georgia applied for one of these grants, and let's say we had Mixed Greens as an organization, as part of a members organization, as part of Rev Up, they could apply for a small grant for funding from our Rev Up Georgia to do events that are voting outreach and everything else like that.
Yep, you got it.
Great, thank you.
Yep. Let's see, April.
This is April. Megan in the chat asked, can we apply for more than one grant because we have different projects?
Oh, that's a really interesting question, Megan. So I think it would be just one grant application per organization. I think what I was trying to explain is if you have multiple organizations a part of your coalition, each of those organizations could apply for a grant. I will note though that if they seem really similar or have really similar outreach, you might get an email from me saying hey, are you guys all on the same page and working together?
This is Megan. Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you, Megan.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, that kind of hits what I was trying to talk about. But so like so the projects would have to be underneath, like say we ask for $10,000. Can we ask for another $10,000 for a different project within the state?
If they're both coming from one organization, no.
Okay,
Just
so
because we do have like a limited number of funds and we want to try to both support work but also disperse the funds.
okay, gotcha.
Um,
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. I had not considered that before, so that's helpful. Brittany? Brittany, are you able to unmute?
Hi, this is Brittany. Thanks, Alexia. I'm having some tech issues, so that's why I'm not on camera. And I'm not sure if you went over this because of said tech issues. I just wanted to make sure. So if there's some state chapters, like as you know, the ARC has all these different chapters. Do they have to be involved in a rev up in their state in order to apply for this funding opportunity?
This Alexia, that's a really good question, Brittany. The answer is no. You don't have to be involved in Rev Up already to apply for one of these grants, as long as what you're applying for is work related to disability and voting. If you do apply for one of the grants, we will make sure that you're connected to people in your area, which I'm actually going to go to the next slide. We'll get to the other questions, but just to highlight that. So a couple of new requirements we have with the grants this year is that if you're awarded, we're going to ask you to attend one call with other grantees in your area, just so you can learn what other people are doing and make sure that you are all connected. Does that answer your question, Brittany?
Hi, this is Brittany. Yes, thanks for that. So I'll let people know they don't have to be a part, but can apply. All right, thank you so much.
Yeah, this can also be a way for Rev Up to expand and reach more people. So we're happy for new folks to join. Okay, Kathy?
Kathy Collins? Is that who you're talking? Or did
Yes.
you want the other Kathy?
Oh, yeah, go ahead, Kathy Collins.
What do you call? I just was wondering, as we have a Rev Up coalition, and we were thinking to get money for that. Is that money separate from this grant, or do we have to put an application for that too? Or is it only like the groups within our group that have to do an application? That was my question.
Yeah, so we will be giving those small 2,000 to 4,000 to all the coalitions automatically. You just need to fill out a really quick survey, but it's not an application.
Okay. Where do we do that?
If you, as a Rev Up New York, like you guys want to host an in-person event in the summer, as Rev Up New York, you could apply for a grant for that. Like for example, Access the Vote Florida.
Oh, okay. So I mean, if the coalition has like a separate thing they want to do besides just having their 4 quarterly meetings,
yes,
then they should apply for a grant. And then the survey, will you be sending that out to us so that we fill it out in time and all?
yes, I will be sending that out to you.
Okay, great. And do we get a copy of these slides? I'm sorry if you may have said in the beginning, I may have missed it.
Nope, I did not say it. So good call.
Okay.
Yes, I will send the copy of the slides to everyone after.
Thanks, we appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so the other new thing I wanted to point out is that for the first time, we're going to try to collect some information about the amount of voters that we're reaching. So we've created a really simple SurveyMonkey form, and we're going to ask grantees and partners to just fill that out after they do a voter outreach event. It's just your name, your email, how many voters you registered, how many voters you interacted with through like updating their address or just talking about voting access. I'm not going to be super strict about it. It's a balance between, not creating more burden, but also collecting information so that we can all learn about the impact we're having.
Hey, Alexa, if you had a fundraiser or something for Rev Up Georgia. Do you want to know, is that survey monkey survey thing, can it be used for that too?
Did you do voter like outreach or registration at the event?
Well, I was just trying to get awareness out about Rev Up Georgia and what we do and everything.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm gonna send you the form and then maybe we can decide together.
Yeah,
Because I
I
think
just
if it's voter interaction, you could still register, you could still
yeah,
include that information.
yeah. Because I didn't register anybody. I just talked to them about Rev Up.
Okay, I think that's fine because that's still voter education, right? Like you're talking about voting, you're talking about the importance.
Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Jesus, I don't feel good. So I'm
Oh
going back
no.
on mute.
Okay. Thanks, Jessica. Take
All
care.
right.
Okay. I think most of you know how to reach me, but I will put my email in the chat too if more questions come up on these parts as we move forward. But now we are at the best part of the call, which is our state coalition updates. I know Molly has to hop off. Molly, are you still on the call?
I am, yes. Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting.
You're good. Do you want to give your update first?
I'd love to. Let me get set up. All right, can everyone see me okay? I think so. Okay, I'm getting a few nods. Well, it's great to be here. My name is Molly Thompson. I am the leader of Maine's Rev Up Coalition, and I work for Maine's protection and advocacy agency called Disability Rights Maine. So I'm here to give an update on our poll worker project, which we're very excited about at Disability Rights Maine. So we are working with a local city in Maine, the city of Westbrook, and we recruited 6 individuals with disabilities who will be poll workers on the March 5th election we have in Maine, the presidential primary election. So we worked with the state, the Town and City Clerks Association, and we did some outreach with them and attended one of their trainings. And it was at that training and through networking, we made a connection with the city clerk in Westbrook, Maine, who's pretty progressive compared to some parts of the state when it comes to reaching out to voters with disabilities. So after working with the city clerk's office, we attended their poll worker training that they had back in October. Then we just sort of observed on election day to be able to understand the different roles and objectives that poll workers have on election day. And then after that, we worked on creating some informational materials. We sent our materials to our own network, and we're really lucky that we have 6 individuals involved. So these individuals will be poll workers on election day. And really from now until then, there's not much that we'll be doing just because, you know, we want these poll workers to follow the same process as other poll workers who don't have disabilities. So our role from now on, once we have the participants, is really in a supportive role. We'll be attending their trainings and we'll be present on election day if anyone needs assistance. So this is the first project like it in Maine. We're very excited. So if anyone else from any other coalitions are interested to hear about it, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you.
Yes, Lycia, thank you so much, Molly. I'm glad we got to before you have to leave. Thank you for sharing your update. Okay, I'm gonna go back. Okay, so Rev Massachusetts, who is on to share your update?
I am Barbara. Yep, hold on one second, okay?
Yep.
Work. Okay, so hi everyone. I am Barbara L'Italian. I'm the executive director at Disability Law Center in Massachusetts. And we do have a voting rights advocate, but I don't believe that Emily is here today. Over the last 2 weeks, we have done 3 town halls in Massachusetts. We purposely chose BIPOC communities. So we went into the cities of Brockton, which has a very high Portuguese population, and Haitian population, Haitian Creole, the city of Lawrence, which is 80% Hispanic, and the city of Springfield, which is one of our larger cities here in Massachusetts. What we did was we worked with a coalition of legal advocacy groups and good government groups and League of Women Voters here in Massachusetts in a coalition to try to push for some updates and improvements to our voting system. And so we have an omnibus bill before the legislature for consideration, which is made up of 4 different parts. But we basically went to these 3 cities to present information about our attempts to expand voter access, particularly through same-day registration, which we do not have, but also the piece that Disability Law Center is most concerned about is we are trying to put language in that would require the Secretary of State's office to hire people who would go out and audit all polls in Massachusetts once every 4 years for physical accessibility, to be able to get into the polling place, but then also to ensure that the machinery that we have is set up, that it's in a private area, and that it's functioning so that people are able to cast a ballot with what we have are called automark machines. And I know that's not current technology. Some of you might have better technology. But we went around and had 2-hour listening sessions where it was really more of an interactive process. We explained the components of the legislation that we are working on, but most importantly, we gave others a chance to share their feedback with regards to the voting process here in Massachusetts. I attended the one in Lawrence, and it was really interesting that for many people, they were talking about cultural differences and how that sometimes becomes a barrier to people wanting to even consider to vote. So we were focused on barriers when you've decided you're going to vote and you show up at the voting place. But others wanted to speak about some of the cultural barriers as they observed it from their culture that cause really, really low percentage turnout relative to registered voters. So we thought that was eye-opening and something that we want to pay further attention to in addition to the legislative pieces that we're doing. And so here in Massachusetts, we have a 2-year legislative cycle. And so we are in year 2 now, but there is a key deadline by February 7th, where bills that have not come out of committee, in essence, are done for this year. And so we've also, as a coalition, been meeting with key decision makers in the Election Laws Committee, so that the Senate chair and the House chair, to try to keep our bill front and center moving forward and, potentially teed up to be passed into law. So that is what we've been doing here in Massachusetts recently.
Thank you so much, Barbara. Any questions for Barbara? Awesome work. Well, if any come up, we will put her back on this spot. Thank you, Barbara. Okay. Next up, we have REV UP New York. We have Joseph Damiano on.
Hi everyone, this is Joseph. We just had our first meeting for REV UP New York. We are currently working on 2 big projects. One is getting advocates to call on their elected officials to vote using the accessible voting machines, or BMDs. This will help get more visibility and give the officials experience. And the other is that the state of New York is redoing their poll worker training for the whole state. And REV UP New York is collecting and organizing ideas from disabled leaders about what should be included in the training. Thank you.
Dyslexia, awesome. Thank you so much, Joe. Any questions or comments for REV UP New York? Well, they are very humble, but just major applause and kudos to them for getting together an incredibly successful first meeting. I think there was 35 people. And Sophia put in the chat some of the orgs in Rev Up New York included SANIes, which is Self Advocates of New York State, Downstate Adapt, Disabled in Action, New York Association of Independent Living Centers, National Federation of the Blind, and Disability Rights New York. So super exciting group of advocates. We are very happy for Rev Up New York to join. Awesome. Next up, we have an update from Access the Vote Florida.
Hi, I think today is P&A Day, apparently. I am Olivia Ballas Keller. I am the Senior Public Policy Analyst at Disability Rights Florida. And we also help facilitate our Rev Up chapter here in Florida, Access the Vote Florida. So we frequently have the Florida Council of the Blind, the SIL Network, and also some non-disability specific groups, such as League of Women Voters. Common Cause joins our calls frequently as well. So we have a good group of people. I was kind of laughing at Massachusetts talking about using the AutoMark machine because we just phased this out in our last elections here in Florida. So apparently Massachusetts needs to talk to Florida and see if it can get our AutoMark machines that have been taken out of service so you can cannibalize them for parts. So just so people are aware, the AutoMark machine was the ES&S Express Vote. That is what replaced AutoMark. So AutoMark actually doesn't exist anymore. In the states that are using them, they don't have replacement parts. So these things are slowly falling apart and being replaced by the Express Vote. So in Florida, we actually just got accessible vote by mail for the 2020 election. We had a pilot project that was across 5 counties for 2020, and then it was implemented statewide in 2022 as a result of litigation by the Florida Council of the Blind for having unsafe voting methods during a global pandemic. So we now have accessible vote by mail in Florida that is sort of accessible, but not really. So people can request an accessible vote by mail ballot, and the supervisor of elections will either send them a link where they can go download their ballot or send them the ballot via email. They can complete it on their computer or their phone or whatever device they use for assistive technology. But they still have to print the form. They still have to put it in an envelope. They still have to mail it back or find a way to return it. And there's a bunch of restrictions on that in Florida now. So it's still not a fully accessible process, but just getting that first step has been a 20-year ordeal. So we're getting there. But this is still new. The supervisors of elections aren't promoting it a whole lot. So we are doing that for them. So for the last election cycle, we created brochures that explained how these work. We ordered a ton of these things and we keep having to order them. So we know that there's around 10 to 15,000 of them in circulation right now. They've even come back to us at events from our coalition partners that are handing them out across the state. So this time we are creating videos on how accessible vote by mail works. So during the 2020 elections, we found that there really weren't good, accessible, instructive videos on how to use the in-person voting machines, the ballot marking devices like AutoMark, Express Vote. So we made videos for the 2 machines that are used here in Florida that had sign language interpreters, closed captioning, Spanish, and I think we did Creole captions as well, that explain how these machines work. So we wanted to do something very similar for accessible vote by mail, so people will know what this looks like when they receive their ballot via email, and know how to fill out the form and just be educated on the fact that you know, there's still steps after that they can't send it back electronically. So we are working with, we used to be block by block, or I guess they still are technically, but we were working with them on creating those videos, and we're going to be filming, I think, in March. So we're doing live casting calls right now for people that want to help us with these videos, but we're really excited about it and hope that they will circulate as much as our previous ones did and be as popular as our brochures. So.
Thank you so much, Olivia. There's definitely some interest in the chat, it looks like, in learning more about how you got there with your semi-accessible vote by mail, which is a huge step still. And hopefully the next step will be even more accessible. Kathy Collins from New York said that they are dealing with the same thing in New York State of a semi-accessible vote by mail option. So sounds like we need to do some strategizing. So you guys can either send emails in the chat or I can connect you. I wrote down who needs to talk to who. But thank you, Olivia. I'm gonna keep us rolling. Next up, we have an update from Missouri.
Hello, this is Shelby. I don't know. I had my camera off, sorry. Hi, I'm Shelby Butler. I'm from Southwest Missouri, so Springfield is the city where our office is. I work for Empower Abilities, and in Missouri, we're very lucky to have 22 centers for independent living. So we're one of those 22, and we cover about 8 counties down in the bottom left-hand corner. We work a lot with other groups statewide. We haven't officially formed a REV UP coalition, but we're in conversations all the time about how to best do our voting work. And we have a lot of good advocates on the ground. We've had a lot of challenges in Missouri over the last few years with, you know, photo ID bills and other limitations for organizations to help register voters and that kind of thing. But in Southwest Missouri, we're really lucky to have a good group, including the League of Women Voters, and then some of the other disability-focused groups. We have a couple college campuses that have student groups that have been involved. So we've received REV UP money, you know, to do certain activities. We bought T-shirts and helped, you know, promote voter registration that way. But through all of our work over the years, we've developed a really good relationship with our county clerk here. So in Missouri, we have 2 big areas, St. Louis and Kansas City, and they have more of like an election authority or board or however they operate. But here in the southwest part of the state, we have a clerk for every county. So we have a lot of outreach we have to do for the rural counties, but we definitely have a friend in our local clerk. So we're really excited that our building is going to become a polling place this year. And so in April, August, and November, we will operate as a polling place. And of course, you know, we pride ourselves in the fact that we have more than enough accessible parking. We have a no-step entry. There are no barriers to getting into our building. We have a lot of space in our community room. So I don't foresee any barriers, but of course we'll, you know, be double checking all of that. But in addition to that, the clerk is allowing us to host a poll worker training here. So I'm hoping that our building can kind of be the ideal setup so that all, you know, poll workers can see what it would look like and actually be in the space while it's operating like a, you know, fake polling site. So I am really interested in some of the other groups that have talked about the poll worker training. I know we struggle to really have a curriculum that's in place, and I'm not sure there is one that exists, but we have some materials. We had a vote coalition many, many years ago and kind of worked around this topic, but hadn't ever gotten to the full statewide approach. So we're excited. You know, there could be some kinks along the way. Usually in April in our area, we have a very low voter turnout. So it will be a practice run to see how things go. But I'm hoping we also have an opportunity. I'm sorry, they're doing construction in our building. I'm hoping this will also be an opportunity to, you know, show other centers that this is a possibility. I know in our area, a lot of churches were polling places, and with heightened political activity over the last couple of elections, they've just backed out. A lot of them were not really accessible anyway, but our clerk struggles to find good places to host, you know, polling sites. In our area, we actually have central voting places where people can go no matter where they live in the, you know, this part of the state or this part of the city. So I'm hoping that eventually we can become one of those central polling places where anyone could come here and vote, you know, despite them living across town. So I'd be happy to share, you know, any steps along the way or just let you know later how it goes. And I might reach out to some of you about the poll worker training, because that to me is really key. We've been wanting that for a long time. I know we do have a local group here who is going to braille ballots, and the clerk is also allowing that. So that's something new that we're partnering with them on too. So I think that's about it.
Yes, Alexia, thank you so much, Shelby, and congratulations. This is going to be so exciting. And also just a plug for everyone, Shelby is going to be presenting in our August national call once she's gone through two of these elections, just to share more about the experience of becoming a polling place. So stay tuned. And yes, reach out to Shelby if you do have ideas or have worked on poll worker training before. Let's see, Kathy Collins. Have to remember there's two
Yes,
Kathys.
sorry about that. I'm here with Terrence Page. He's on my phone, and he's the president of the Greater New York Council of the Blind, and he taught me this, that you don't want braille ballots because that does away with our privacy. And so no one should be advocating for braille ballots. And also, we really shouldn't be advocating for one area for us to vote. We should be able to vote in our local communities. We are part of the community. We are not separate, and there should be accessibility in every polling site. So I think that's two things. I mean, that's my understanding from all these other national disability organizations. So I just wanted to bring that to people's attention here that may not know this.
Yeah,
So
go ahead.
I was
And
just gonna
also, we should also remember, we shouldn't be advocating anything with paper ballots also. We need to have balloting so that we can use it.
This is Shelby. That's really great feedback. I appreciate that. It was a request from several individuals in the community, and I think
We've had those kind of requests too, and we had to explain it to them.
yeah. I was thinking of it as just an option or a choice if they didn't want to use the automated machines. We have brand new machines, and the clerk did a really good job. This also stemmed from that good relationship. He brought together an advisory group to test out 3 different machines and kind of help him choose which one to purchase. So I think the braille ballots were just in addition to, but I am going to write that down and keep that in mind.
We can't have that as an addition, because that's going to put a stigma on them.
It's going to identify the voter.
Do you hear what Mr. Page just said? It's going to identify the voter, and we don't want that. That's going to start us down a path that that it's going to identify all of us. And we know how people feel about us already voting. Many people out there in the community don't think we have enough brains, that we're not, why do we need to vote? I mean, yeah, this is anybody that tells you, I mean, I've heard it from people here who don't know, who have visual disabilities, and I had to explain to them that you can vote. You just, you use this machine, and it's not that difficult.
I have a question. What about if the braille ballot is used as like a sample ballot people can review ahead of time or in line before actually casting their vote at the accessible ballot device? Because you can do that with a paper ballot in line. You can get a copy to review before you actually cast your vote. And I'm wondering if that is a good usage of that.
No, the Board of Elections should provide a digital ballot. It should be an accessible digital ballot on their website.
And we have that as a requirement in New York. We have an actual law now that requires every Board of Elections in the state that they must provide a digital ballot that you can access online through either your phone or your computer. And, you know, you can go to your local library and even go and look at a computer there if you don't have one. But I mean, you can do it on your phone. I think a lot of people have phones today. And so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. I see a couple hands, so I'm gonna keep us moving, and then we do have
Okay.
one other update that I want to get to. So we're gonna go Kathy and then Olivia.
I just wanted to say that in Alabama, we've never had non-paper ballots, but last year they passed a law to put it in place that you are required to use a paper ballot. There are members of the League of Women Voters that they do not trust electronic ballots, mainly for IT security. And that's one of the things that I'm really hoping that I can get some, we need to build some confidence that whatever we're proposing as a solution is actually secure and is not going to be at risk, because that in a state like Alabama, you're going to get people who will find any excuse to not let people vote. And also Braille, I've been told by the National Federation of the Blind Alabama president that not as many people are learning Braille anymore. So that's not necessarily really something a lot of people may be able to use.
This really good discussion. I'm gonna go Olivia and then Macy.
I know we're pressed for time, so I'll make it quick, but first flag I wanted to do was that in Maryland in, I think it was 2020, there was actually a lawsuit. It was the Maryland Council of the Blind and I think the Federation of the Blind that filed litigation that Maryland had a two-tier voting system. So basically the ruling was that the state couldn't have basically just disabled people using the accessible machines, because like people pointed out, that is marking their ballots. They print them out differently. So that's like flagging all the disabled people. So there was litigation for that, and their Council of the Blind won. So just people are aware of that. And then the other point I wanted to make was to Kathy, in that we have let military service members and overseas voters send ballots electronically for 20 years. And there has not been an issue with that to our knowledge ever. So if it's secure enough for our military to trust sending their ballots back, then, you know, it should be secure enough for disabled people as well. So
That's what we keep saying, but it's, you know, there's a difference between federal law and what's under the control of state law, you know.
Absolutely. And I will flag too, just in case people are curious, that lawsuit Olivia mentioned in Maryland, the solution to it was that poll workers are supposed to offer to every voter, do you want to vote on paper or do you want to vote with the machine? We're currently trying to do follow-up to see if that's actually being consistently followed, because it may not be in some counties. And of course, protecting the secrecy of ballots is really, really important. So we're gonna go to Macy, and then I'm gonna take us to one more update, and then we can return to some of this discussion. Go ahead, Macy.
Just
So
really
lost-
quickly, I wanted to offer to the representative from Alabama. Here in South Carolina, we have a similar disconnect between our leagues. And then I represent, I'm on the Coalition for South Carolina, but I work for Disability Rights of South Carolina, PNA. And I would love to talk with you about what that process has been like as we've navigated to an electronic accessible ballot marking system for everybody. Because we've done a lot of work like with our counties and building trust with the digital stuff. So just offering that out there.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Macy. This has been a really helpful discussion. I want to see, April, can you read Mark Dixon's Rev Up Virginia update?
Yes, 1 second.
Just want to make sure we get all our state updates. Or I can read that, I have it. So Mark from Rev Up Virginia said, in Rev Up Virginia, We are having the Virginia Civic Engagement Partnership present to the coalition next month. We are working on our coalition and launching a website. Thank you for the update from Virginia. Okay, I'm going to give us one more slide updates and then we'll come back to this. So Kathy from Alabama, do you want to share the update?
All right, we have a bill in Alabama, which I think is already passed in several other states, especially across the Deep South. This bill would criminalize helping voters with absentee voting. And what it is attempting to do, we got one fix last year where people with disabilities could ask for help. But what that does is it makes it difficult when people are not visibly disabled for groups like the League to be able to stand there and have discussions that include all parts of a voting plan. It also impacts students who have a right to vote by absentee. The other part of the bill would make it a felony with jail time and a significant financial penalty if you are in a situation where you have someone that is being paid, like a caregiver, to help you fill out your absentee ballot application or absentee or to complete your affidavit envelope on the absentee ballot, as well as turning it in. And so this bill is a bad bill. There's the Disability Coalition is last year was absolutely critical to killing it. Last year, this is the third year that they've been trying to pass this bill. We're hearing that this year they're wanting to pass it super quick, starting on when the session opens on February 6th. We're expecting it to maybe pass within a month because they realize the longer they let the public have a chance to talk to the politicians, the bill may not pass again. And this is the third year. So we're trying to get, basically the ear of politicians now and then show up in Montgomery when the session does start. And the coalition, it's been amazing to watch when mainly the National Federation of the Blind of Alabama, when they walked into the room, it really resets the entire attitude of the legislators. They get very uncomfortable when they start seeing the people that they're impacting.
Dyslexia, thank you so much for sharing that update, Kathy. And this, correct me if I'm wrong, but the National Federation of the Blind of Alabama last year sent 3 buses of people to the State House to testify on this bill.
They sure did.
There's a lot of incredible advocates in Alabama, but you all keep having to do the same fight over and over again. So we are here to support and root for you. Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna do one other quick update and then okay, Kenya, are you on still?
Yes. Hello. Hi everyone. I'm Kenya Flores and I'm the Voting Access and Election Protection Fellow at Detroit Disability Power. I'm gonna try to make this really quickly, but I've been really pleased to hear everyone discussing poll worker training and audits today. And as some of you may know, we partnered with the Carter Center in 2022 to conduct a large-scale audit of 261 polling places, and we've taken all of our learnings from that and created a curriculum for folks to replicate on a national level. We know that inaccessible polling places are common everywhere, not just in Detroit. And so one of the trainings that we're doing is on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. We did a train the trainer back in September that went through the entire process, but this will just be on the questionnaire that is used to assess polling locations. And so I would love to see all of you there. I will put the link in the chat to register for the training. We will have additional trainings this spring and summer that will cover the entire process, but I wanted to highlight this training for all of you as you are doing this wonderful work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kenya. And I know Kenya has to hop off very quickly, so she'll put that in the chat. I also wanted to make sure people know about another upcoming event on January 31st. It's called Accessibility is Nonpartisan, and it will be the Arizona Disability Vote Coalition, which is the Rev Up partner there. They are going to talk about how even in their state, which is very polarized, how they were able to advocate for some election accessibility improvements in Arizona. So I'm excited to hear from them more in depth. We only have about 2 minutes left, but I do want to just check in with folks. We had some really great discussion here happening about how to advocate within your state about making sure you have the best accessible voting machine, how to be best providing access, how do we address concerns that other groups raise around security, even when we know those issues are often overstated and not true. How do we advocate in all of those difficult settings? So I am going to schedule another discussion call for us if people are interested in talking more about some of these topics. I will set a date in February and send that around. I know it's difficult on these calls. There's so many updates, we don't always get to spend as much time on the discussion. So I'll make some more space for that. But thank you all so much for joining, for sharing your updates, for all of the work that you are doing. Hopefully some of you can also continue these conversations offline. If you need to connect to any state and you didn't grab their information, send me an email and I will make sure you guys are connected. But thank you so much, everyone. Don't forget to apply for Rev Up grants by January 29th. And we will see you all soon.